Alright everyone, I'm very excited for today's video because I've done a lot of research into this SUMAIL Terrorblade, and essentially I have a lot of great ideas here for you guys to basically become not only a better Terrorblade player, which is going to be the main theme of this video, but also a better carry player in general. We're going to be looking at his farming patterns, his laning stage, his itemization, how he groups up, when to fight, all these important questions that a lot of you guys I know struggle with. So yeah, if you're excited for this SUMAIL Terrorblade video, like the video and subscribe. You guys know the deal. As well as comment down below who you want to see next, what hero you want to see VOD reviewed next. Just let me know in the comment section down below. I'll most likely pick one. I would say it's like a 95% chance. And yeah, let's get into the content. And on top of the content you're going to be seeing today, I recently talked about Necro. I played a Necro game where live I talked about all of my thoughts and really everything that came to mind. It was a very funny match as they basically gave up early on. But what I discussed was like how to crush the early game, how to really dominate your laning stage and not just go even. Because a lot of people think they're winning. They think they're doing okay, but at the end of the day, they're not really doing that well. So if you're interested in seeing that video, click the link down below to the gameleap website. It's over there. I've also made some other videos such as a live Legion game. I've even talked about Tidehunter recently, updating his course. We even have an updated Legion course now. And so there's so many things to check out on the gameleap website. Super cheap. A lot of time on our hands, I'm sure, right now because of the quarantine that I am also going through. Hopefully I'll see you guys there, and now let's get into the video. Alright, so in this game here, we're going to look at a couple of strategies that allow OG SUMAIL to get a lot of last hits, and basically strategies that actually OG uses as a whole to keep him safe and basically prevent the Terrorblade from ever getting threatened. So the first and very crucial thing I want you guys to do as Terrorblade is in the first wave, always pop your meta. Do not even question this. The reason is you want to get off to a good head start so that the enemy team does not build a level advantage and then punish you with levels. Because what you should understand about Terrorblade is because he is squishy and doesn't have a lot of HP, if the enemies hit level 2 first, there's a high chance he can die. And so what you're going to see here from SUMAIL is that he's going to pop the meta right away to try to secure the range creep. Now, he does it a little bit late here and it ends up getting denied. Also, the enemy team like triple hit it, right? Something you're not going to see in your average pub. But basically, you want to use the early meta to get as many denies as possible and as many CS as possible. On top of that, you're going to see him here hit the opponents quite a bit. Basically, if people walk into your creep wave when you pop meta, you should hit them. That's exactly how you should look at it. And really the main purpose of this meta is just so that you don't lose a lot of HP early on. I want you guys to notice that he only bought 3 tangos to start and a lot of stats, which is going to make him hit, with a lot of attack speed with this early metamorphosis, and basically him using meta here saves him a lot of HP. Now, there's going to be a lot of side pulling shenanigans going on. Whenever you aggro tri-lane or tri-lane in general, pulling is the name of the game. If you guys ever tri-lane in Dota and you're not pulling, you are griefing your match. It's really that simple. If you don't pull, you're griefing your match because there's not enough XP to go around and you're not going to be keeping the lane back. Now what SUMAIL does coming up here is actually very important. It's a great way to keep yourself safe in the laning stage. So what you're going to see is that he's going to actually creep aggro the lane back here. But most importantly, after they do this, he's going to actually start auto-attacking the creeps in a moment here, right about now. So he's going to start auto-attacking, and what this does is that it pushes the lane into the enemy team, and now, with this aggression, they're able to actually get a double wave onto the side of Viking.gg, and following that up, they can continue to do this, right, using the Wave of Terror from the Venge to push it in even faster, trying to secure the range creep, and now he's not going to be able to be pressured at all, right? You'll notice that because the lane is shoving in, they can't go on him. That's the idea here. And then following that, you're going to want to go for a side pull, right? You can see the real, clear, methodical play of OG. This is why they are a top tier team. They shove the lane hard with Wave of Terror, and then once they shove the lane, they pull it back. And they do this over and over and over and over and over again. Over and over and over again. And as a carry player, you can contribute to this by basically telling your team, hey guys, I want to use this strategy, right? I'm going to push the lane, then you pull. And then yeah, if you're in the off lane, or even if you're in the safe lane and they pull to the large camp, using any of those different strategies that you can do that, you can then farm the large camp. Now moving on here, I want to talk about the second metamorphosis usage before we actually get into the mid-game farming. So what I recommend you guys do is essentially whenever you hit level 3, consider looking for a kill as Terrorblade. The reason is because your metamorphosis goes from 20 damage to 40 damage. It doubles in damage, you're very strong, and because of this, OG goes on, right? The Snapfire. With the help of No-Tail, he's able to pick up First Blood. Obviously, he didn't get the kill, but you guys can see the power of this. Hits level 3 and basically instantly looks for pressure, completely zoning out the Rubik here, dealing an insane amount of damage, and now he can even push in the lane once again, absolutely nothing that the enemy team can do to pressure him, even though they have a Snapfire Rubik Monkey King lane, which would generally be able to pressure heroes. And now after his 10th side pull, SUMAIL's actually going to go mid here. Now this is a weird strategy that OG employs, and essentially what they do is they send the level 6 Phoenix who is in the mid lane off to the bottom lane, right? So now the Phoenix is going to go lane against the Monkey King, and SUMAIL is going to go lane mid against the Lycan. Now, this can be a bit weird, as, you know, technically you could get run down, and you do have to be careful in your pubs if you go for this strategy. You know, if the enemy mid laner is a Timbersaw and you try to go mid as a level 3 or 4 Terrorblade, your game is gonna get griefed. So yeah, it's a very matchup dependent thing to do, but it is actually an option in most games. On top of that, in these high MMR games, what you're often going to see is that supports will take mid, and because of that, SUMAIL is going to get free farm. In your pubs, I would generally recommend at least waiting for both of the mid laners to rotate before just taking mid at level 4. For the most part, you do want to look for mid farm as Terrorblade, as you'll see in a second, but just be careful that you're not going to insta-die to the enemy mid laner. And now what his goal is really just to kind of use this level 3 meta that we're going to see here, as well as while popping clarities to take Ancients. And this is huge, guys. I know a lot of people don't do this. I've seen plenty of Terrorblade players, I've even coached many myself, and they don't pop meta. Guys, use meta off cooldown to the best of your ability when farming. Now, this isn't an exact science, and sometimes you're going to want to hold it so that you can fight a little bit later on, but in this clip here, you're going to notice he pops it to take Ancients. Very crucial, because otherwise you take a lot of damage, and you take it really slowly, but this is going to give all of his illusions and him plus 60 damage. Now, obviously his illusions don't get the 60 damage, but it's a ton of damage, and he's able to clear through the camps extremely quickly, right? Kills it off by the 6:58 minute mark, and now is able to let the camp respawn and start farming for jungle items, as well as using the rest of his meta. On top of that, he actually puts a much higher emphasis on lane creeps over ancient creeps, as there was actually some ancient creeps there, but his meta was running out and there was lane creeps under tower, so he completely skips them and goes to the lane. And that's what I want to mention. When you guys are jungling on any hero, Slark, Jug, Sven, Terrorblade, doesn't matter, you need to know where the creep waves are. So if I asked you right now, where's the creep wave, you should be able to tell me, oh, it's actually not even mid yet, right? It's behind the Monkey King, it's behind his tier 1 tower, and therefore I can go jungle, and that's what we're gonna see from SUMAIL. Now in this case, his Weaver did end up want to take farm, and that's okay. It's the same thing as if, let's say you were taking the mid farm and your mid laner comes back from a gank. That's fine. You can start jungling once you have treads and Wraith Bands. In fact, basically once you have treads and a Glove of Haste. And now there's no major science to what he's doing here. The main thing I do want to say is that he uses the illusions to take the small camps to the north of him, and the reason why I like this is if he tried to farm those camps by himself, there's a chance he would get ganked. So basically, he uses the illusions to take the hard, the dangerous farm, which he knows is dangerous because he looks at the minimap, and then using his own hero, he's able to farm the safer camps. On top of that, guys, you have to spam clarities on TB. I can't stress this enough. You won't be able to farm properly if you do not do that. On top of the fact, make sure you are spawning illusions essentially off cooldown. This is something that people just don't really do, but as you're going to see, literally as the illusion comes up, instantly pops it. You don't waste any time. You're trying to build up as many illusions as possible. You always want 3 at all times, and it's a really big detriment to your farming patterns if you don't do this. Also, a quick little tip here when farming these satyr creeps, or whatever you want to call them, the weird purple prowlers, or whatever they're called. What you want to do is run your illusion in. Now, I kind of wish he ran the lower duration illusion in to get the lower duration one killed off, but regardless, you have to kill one of your illusions off so that you do not take the majority of the damage. On top of that, once you get to this point where you sort of have like multiple agility items, such as your treads, right, this band of elven skin and 2 wraith bands, you actually don't need the meta anymore to tank ancients, as your illusions will have an insane amount of armor and can tank for you. And once again, if we look at the minimap here, why is he able to farm mid? The Lycan is showing bottom, 2 heroes showing top, Monkey King is absolutely no threat to him. In fact, he would kill the Monkey King if the Monkey King tried to go on him. And because of this, he looks once again for mid farm. So in general, I really recommend you guys try to take mid overall. Now you might be saying, Speed, what if my mid laner doesn't let me do this? Okay, well you want to generally look for the open lane. So when you're farming the jungle, which is what you should always be doing on Terrorblade, when you're farming through the jungle, going from camp to camp to camp to camp, you want to be staring at the minimap and figuring out where is the safest place for me to farm. Now I can't answer and go into the exact details in a small video like this, as you have to know matchups, you have to be, really attentive to possible rotations, but overall, this is the idea. And now I'm coming here is my favorite play of the entire match, and this is where we're going to start getting into fighting. So SUMAIL goes to siege mid, and what I want to note is that he picks up this very early Dragon Lance, and I love this item on Terrorblade. In fact, I don't really understand why it totally fell off, as it makes your metamorphosis timing insane, and even if you're not meta'd, it's still a great item for stats, right? It's 12 agility, 12 strength. It's fantastic. Now, moving on here, what we notice is with this Dragonlance timing, he's going to start sieging mid, and this is what you want to do. When I used to play Terrorblade a few months ago a lot, what I would do is I would rush this Dragonlance with my stat items. When I hit it, I'd walk up to a tower, and that's what you guys want to do as well. You walk up, right? He's being very careful because he understands he can get ganked here. He's not overcommitting, right? You can see he's kind of standing back. He's like, they might gank me. He doesn't want to run into them. Do not commit into the enemy team. Guys, do not do that. Never, when you're pushing a tier 1 tower from the front of the tower, go into them. You need to kite backwards, and that's what he's doing here, using his illusions to take the tower until the Tidehunter shows up the front line, right? Once the Tidehunter's here, he can finish off the tower, but you're gonna notice, Timbersaw runs at him. What does he do? He backs up, kiting backwards. He does not want to get caught out by a rally of nukes that would absolutely one-shot him. Now, unfortunately, they weren't able to end up getting the tower, as Viking GG did a good job denying it, but then he's instantly back to farming, and this is the pattern you guys want to have. Try to take a tower, specifically mid-tower is a great option, if possible, and then immediately go back to farming, using the rest of his metamorphosis to take Ancients. Now, Okami here, I want to show a major shift in farming, so for the majority of the early game, especially pre-10 minutes, right, 10 minutes and before, even 12 or 11 minutes before, and of course this changes depending on the game and your skill bracket, but what you're gonna see here is now, for the first time in the game, he starts farming bottom. The main reason for this is that the enemy team starts posturing in the mid and top lane, which basically means that they can collapse on mid and the jungle easily. And because of this, his farming rotation shifts, right? He completely shifts his rotation. So if we look at the minimap, I want you to almost split it up. In the early game, the river is the line that splits up the map, right? So in the early game, like pre-13 minutes, around there, it splits up the map. Of course, it depends on where heroes are. But once the enemy team starts shifting into the off lane and to the mid lane, the middle lane is actually the line that cuts off farming patterns. The middle lane is what you have to care about. And that's what we see here. The middle line splits the map, and so he's farming away from the enemy team. Now, of course, when he has meta, he's going to start to look to, potentially fight once again. This is kind of how you play on TB. But overall, you can see he shifts the enemy team towards him, he baits out rotations, and now he actually groups up for a fight. And that's really what you want to try to do as Terrorblade. Find the open lanes whenever possible, especially going into the mid game, force rotations, and then either TP back for fights, or get your team to group up around you. And now because of this, we see a great play here where, once again, he's using the illusions to push in the lane, right? Taking the hard farm with the illusions. It's very important that you do this, where you essentially try to last hit with your illusion when you send them to the lanes. And then, when he's going through the jungle, he's just casually farming, right? No big deal. He sees this Timbersaw make a psycho play, he's like, oh, free kill. And this is what I love. These are my favorite kills in the carry role because they do not waste any efficiency, and now he can turn this meta into an even potentially bigger play, right? He's using his illusions to push down mid and looking for a smoke gank with his team, getting pretty active, but not too active, right? Gank falls through, back to farming. And now because of all this efficiency that we've seen throughout this video, he now has a 16-minute butterfly Dragonlance and is absolutely huge, as well as the fact that he got the Van Brace is insane. He is the strongest hero on the map by far. His net worth is 1,000 above a Lycan, and guys, if you know anything about high MMR Lycans, it is one of the fastest farming heroes in the game, and these players know it, right? This Lycan is 4-0, SUMAIL is 1-0, and he has 1,000 net worth on him. That is insane. Now moving on ahead here, there's not too much more I want to say. Basically getting into the mid game once the game goes past the 20-minute mark, what you guys really want to consider for your illusions is that you often do want to actually be sending them down lanes and try to split push with them. In fact, you can even cut the creep waves here. A quick little example I want to give is, let's say they're pushing the mid lane in, or your team is pushing mid, and you know it's a hard high ground siege. The enemy team has a sniper, a Zeus, and you're like, oh, it's pretty hard to go high ground. What I want to see you do, let's say your mid lane, is that you keep your main hero mid, but then you send 2 illusions bottom to cut the wave. And this is going to split up the pressure on the map, keep the lanes in, and you won't even have to back to deal with split push from a hero like this Lycan. But yeah, now getting into the high ground siege here, we're going to see him slow play it, right? So he's going to pop the meta and start hitting it from as far away as possible. Once again, he's not going out to the high ground here because he understands he wants to kite them backwards. He wants the enemy team to have to run into him. And that's super important, right? Like, a lot of people just mess this up when going high ground. They're like, oh, I'm gonna ravage in. like they just like, I'll literally see a Tidehunter blink, ravage, no vision, and I'm like, holy man, this is actually AIDS. But no, this is what you want to do. You see how they're basically like, hey, come towards us. OG is trying to bait the enemy team in. The Sunray to sustain, right? Seb has the Vlads. They're making sure they can slow siege it with these proper items. And if he doesn't do this, he's going to get bursted. And now, because they get the enemy team to overcommit, a quick swap onto the Snapfire, insta-dead. And that's really only because of the good positioning from SUMAIL. Also, I just want to mention in terms of talents, he goes for the 20 evasion and the 300 health. You know, you can go for 25 movement speed if you think the enemy team has absolutely no physical damage, but 20% evasion is generally broken against heroes like Lycan and Monkey King. It's actually insane. On top of that, at level 15, he goes for 300 health. He went for this greedy item build where he went Butterfly and Daedalus, so I really like this decision. He's basically buying expensive damage items, did go with BKB to keep himself alive, and then he goes for the 300 health to basically supplement that. And finally, I think I did forget to mention earlier, but basically in the early game, your skill build is almost never going to consist of any points in reflection until you have to take it. Just take your conjure image and your meta whenever you can, maxing the meta first. And now you guys might ask, like, what's the key to team fighting without metamorphosis? Really what you want to do is try to find targets that you can run down. But for the most part, the key to fighting on Terrorblade in general is hitting the first person you see and not overcommitting. Like, this really is the key to Terrorblade. Try not to take fights in open areas. Try to force them around objectives in areas where you can't be kited. And then hit the first person you see when they walk up, basically to force them out of the fight instantly. And that's what he does here. He pops his BKB in the Monkey King ring. Monkey King gets swapped out of it, and now he's basically just not going to overcommit. Like, look at SUMAIL's decision making right there. This is actually so important. And I guarantee most people would make a mistake here. Look, right now, right here. Who would the majority of the players go for? Who would they go for? The Snapfire and the Rubik. Why? Because they can generally kill them. However, in this game here, with no meta, he knows he will get kited. So instead of running in and baiting his team onto the high ground into a bad fight, he waits for them to be able to collapse onto the Rubik, then kills them. So once again, do not overcommit as Terrorblade. You will get kited and it will feel bad. And he's always going back basically to help out, keep his supports safe, and make sure the backline divers don't get to the supports. It's a really important thing to consider that a lot of carry players don't, which is one of your jobs as carry can actually be to protect your supports if you think the game entails it. And that is going to be the end of this Terrorblade guide. Hopefully you guys learned a lot and now are ready to try to play Terrorblade. It does require only pretty basic micro. You just need to have one hotkey for illusions and you'll be fine. But yeah, it's one of those heroes where if you learn how to farm and get ahead, you just stomp the game. And what I want you guys to consider is if you're playing Terrorblade and you're not the top net worth, unless you're against an ALK, you don't really deserve to win, in my opinion. It means you're doing something terribly wrong. I get it? Okay, alright, but no. Nah, in all seriousness though, I really do want you guys to look at that. If you do end up playing Terrorblade or PL or Naga or any of these heroes and you're playing solo queue, I really want you to try to measure your success based on, you know, am I the top net worth? And if you are, and you're still losing, you really need to look at, oh, am I really bad at fighting? Am I forcing awful fights onto the high ground? Probably, because SUMAIL doesn't. And thank you guys for watching. If you enjoyed, please do like and subscribe. If you enjoyed this video, send it to your friends. Maybe they'll like it as well. Who knows? But I'll see you in the next one. Peace. And hey guys, remember, before you end this video, in the link down below, I've been playing a lot of live games where I talk about my thoughts in real time in the middle of a Dota match. So if you want to get in the head of a pro player, click the link down below to the gameleap website. Super cheap right now, right? Like, and I'm doing this a ton. We all have time on our hands. I have time to make content. You guys probably have time to enjoy and learn Dota, get better at the game. So yeah, if that combo works for you, click the link down below and I'll see you there.